last week on Legally Kidnapped.
Good evening. Our top story this week. Casey Anthony was acquitted of murdering her daughter Kaylee, and the court of public opinion is pissed. This prompting calls and campaigns for Kaylee's Law, aimed at making it a felony for parents who do not report a missing child in a timely manner. The case also highlights the issue of child abuse in Indiana, and Miley Cyrus uses the verdict to make a statement about gay marriage in California on Twitter. In California this week, the Napa County Grand Jury says that the child welfare has too many kids but not enough caseworkers. In Connecticut, one set of real parents has been fighting like hell for 6 years to get their kids back. Another set of real parents are trying to get their kid back, but the foster parents who fell in love with the kids are putting up a legal fight to keep them. Connecticut DCF plans to stop placing kids in out-of-state psychiatric facilities. And Joette Katz, Connecticut's new DCF commissioner, plans to implement a plan to recruit more foster parents. In Illinois this week, Catholic Charities ends its foster care and adoption programs over the gay rights thing, and a secular agency jumps right in to take over. Florida overstates the number of child reunifications for 2010 in their annual child welfare report, claiming that more than 9,000 children were given back to their parents when the actual number was more like 5,877. In Michigan, readers of a newspaper are blaming welfare for a pattern of unwed teen moms. In the state of Iowa, would rather keep kids in foster care than place them with kin, despite a policy that suggests that they should do otherwise. Children's advocates in New Jersey want more kids to be involved with family court proceedings. The court system in Ohio is unfair to men who are hurt in domestic violence cases. Pennsylvania claims to have cut the number of child snatchings by the child protective industry in recent years. Texas tries to get out of a class action lawsuit brought on by the infamous child advocacy group known as Children's Rights. Minnesota Representative Michelle Bachmann claims that African American children were better off during the slave days, saying that they were more likely to be raised in a two-parent household with a mom and dad than they were after the election of America's first African American president. And critics are warning that her zeal for budget cuts threatens vulnerable youngsters, the sort of which she would have taken care of as a foster parent. A new study published in the Archives of Pediatrics and Adolescent Medicine claims that children whose parents were deployed for long periods of time to Iraq or Afghanistan were more likely to be diagnosed with mental problems. A study by the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Justice shows that blacks and Native Americans are overrepresented by the U.S. foster care system. Another study reveals that adopted children are more prone to health risks than children who are raised by their real parents. A probe by an anti-abortion group accuses Planned Parenthood of doubling its abortion business with taxpayer dollars and failing to report suspected cases of child abuse. According to a new book, President Barack Obama was nearly put up for adoption as a child. And Nebraska's new privatized child welfare system is an utter failure. In Japan this week, the March 11th earthquake and tsunami has resulted in a sudden wave of concern for Japanese orphans and tons of foreigners calling in to express interest in adopting them. Ireland implements mandatory reporting laws where people who know about but fail to report child abuse face jail time. A woman who was deported to Mexico and separated from her 5 American kids for 10 months gets them back after a judge dismisses the case against her. And fathers in the Czech Republic feel discriminated against in family court. In Norway, child welfare officials can do whatever they want to kids, including telling a 13-year-old boy that he will never see his mother again while being removed. In Pakistan, 2 kids are put up for sale by their mother due to poverty and are adopted 2 days later. A foster mother from Singapore was trying to adopt a 4-year-old in her care, but the real mother takes the kid and hightails it to Malaysia. And in Sweden, school staff are told not to refer to children as him or her in an effort to avoid stereotyping. In Canada, the child protective industry in Alberta tries to cover up another child death in their foster care system by omitting it from their annual report. And a father from British Columbia fights for the return of his autistic daughter who was stolen by the child protective industry. In England this week, 2 kids are forced to spend 4 months in foster care instead of going to live with their aunt in Yorkshire because social workers feared that the kids wouldn't be able to adapt to the culture in northern England. A dyslexic mother regrets giving up her baby for adoption and is terrified to have another child for fear of going through another round with British social workers. A British father claims that false accusations of child abuse are too easy to make. And the UK revises its policy on treating human trafficking victims like criminals. A British social worker is in trouble for failing to warn a family about the risks posed by a teenager who he was placing in their care, who went on to sexually abuse 2 children in the family. A British government advisor urges pregnant teens to have their babies and give them up for adoption instead of having abortions. And a lottery is being held where infertile parent wannabes can win thousands of pounds towards expensive fertility treatments at top clinics. In entertainment news this week, MTV's Teen Mom returns for another season. And Touch Magazine magazine claims that the Octomom admitted that she hates babies, which she denies. In Maryland this week, the foster kids who were molested while in state care file a civil lawsuit against the foster care agency. Illinois expands its investigation of a foster mother who may have killed a 4-year-old. And according to police, a California foster mother who was accused of killing an infant didn't even like kids and only became a foster parent for the money. In Indiana, a teenager is facing 8 years in prison for pulling a prank where he left an inflatable love doll in the school bathroom, prompting school officials to call out the bomb squad. A grandmother from Indiana is fighting the child protective industry in an effort to get custody of her grandkids who are in a foster home. A judge from Kansas rules in favor of a social worker who failed to protect a kid who was beaten to death by his father's girlfriend. And a group of kids in Maryland are selling lemonade and plan to donate all of the money to the child protective industry. In Texas this week, the child protective industry snatches 6 happy, healthy kids who are living in a storage shed due to poverty. But all is not lost because some really nice person donates a house to the family, but whether or not they get the kids back has yet to be determined. In Michigan, new questions arise about the court order that may not have been valid due to a rubber stamp signature by a judge in the case of a mother who was accused of shooting at police who were helping CPS to illegally snatch her kids. A real mother from Washington is being hunted by police after snatching her kids back from the child protective industry and failing to show up for a custody hearing. And finally, tonight, a family counselor from New York is being sued for implanting false memories into a man and his kids' heads during counseling sessions. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.